W. And the guitar and the drums from a week. Anything you missed last week, you can find in our Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day. That's the David Bowie, the Billy Joel, the Daryl Hall, or anything you missed. It is all there. But we're back to baseball and trading deadlines and the first place Baltimore Orioles. And they're headed to Yankee Stadium. Ken Davidoff will be there as he has spent some time breaking down all things Yankees over the years. Ken, this is as interesting a year, I think, for the Yankees and for these couple of weeks to do something unprecedented if they're going to break this thing up. And I guess the Orioles-Yankees series will be maybe a big part of that this week, that if the Yankees are going to breathe some life into it, they're going to have to do it against the Orioles.
There's no doubt about it, Nestor. They need a series victory against the Orioles, or I think they'll be headed toward a sale.
Well, okay, so what does a sale mean here at this point? Does it mean a piece or two, or is it a wholesale thing? I mean, from the outside, look, I am no Yankee fan at all, but if I were, I wouldn't be burning my cap or trading in my pinstripes if the Yankees made 5 deals next week. Matter of fact, I would love to see what that would look like in spring if I were a Yankees fan.
Yeah, so I think at the minimum they would trade their 2 impending free agents, Carlos Beltran and Aroldis Chapman. I would be surprised if they did much more than that. Possibly Ivan Nova, who's also a free agent, but not at the tier of Chapman and Beltran. I think they could listen on some of their starting pitchers, Nathan Eovaldi, Michael Pineda. I'd be rather surprised if either one was traded.
Well, when you say listen on them, I guess the question is when you have an ERA of 5.5, what are you going to get for those guys, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think those guys have some respect in the industry. They're high-quality arms. There just haven't been high-quality results. So it's a matter of, does some general manager out there see something in one of those guys and they think they can fix it and will give up something significant for it.
Miller's an interesting case, right? I mean, of course, we had him here, dealt off Rodriguez, didn't sign him. The Yankees gave him all the money. Because he signed, there's incredible value associated with him, but there'd be value for the Yankees to have him back next year as well.
I think that's exactly right. So if they get a huge return on him, I think they would trade him, but I think their inclination is to keep him because they certainly want to be competitive next year, and they could still have the bullpen combination of Betances and Miller.
I think one of the issues reading all the New York press is that it feels like there's some inner, I don't want to say turmoil, but certainly a very, very lively debate. This is not a debate they've ever had to have. Certainly Hal going back to Papa's days and, where Cashman has never been able to take guys like Beltran and try to turn that into a pitcher, a prospect, a starting position player for next year, for 2018 and 19 and beyond. This is rarefied air for them. I shouldn't say rarefied, but it's different. There's no doubt. And I think for an organization that gets so much money from sponsorship, so much money for skyboxes, and the belief is they're always trying, holding up a white flag is not in any way the Yankees style, right?
Right. So getting back to the start of your question, I think, every team is going to have some of those debate dynamics, and we're also not at the point where you need to pull the trigger. It's July 18th. The non-waivers trade deadline is 2 weeks from today, so you can talk all you want, but you really don't have to make a call until August 1st.
Well, and I guess the next 2 weeks, where do they need to be in your mind? Over 500? If they're under, is that the watermark for making these deals, or is it really about what they're going to get in return for some of these players? Because I don't see the market as being real ripe. I don't see a whole bunch of players moving around before the deadline. Certainly not impact players, and certainly not starting pitching, which they have a little bit, as you've said. I guess the market is what would you give up, and the Red Sox certainly set that market last week with Pomerantz, right?
Yes, they did.
Ken Davidoff joining us here on Twitter. You can follow him as well as at New York Post. He is Ken Davidoff on Twitter. For the Orioles, are you buying on them at first place at this point, or are you, like everyone else, a little bit concerned about the bottom end of that rotation?
Well, I'm not concerned. I don't care how they do. But if you ask me if I'm buying or selling, it's just hard to buy into what the Orioles have done. It's tip of the cap. They've done a great job. But when you look at that starting rotation, my God, it's not great, to be generous. Major doubts the rest of the way whether they can hold this up.
Well, and I guess there's guys like Trumbo, too, and I know he was part of the star of the show last Monday night as well. coming into the year, I don't think we thought the offense would be okay and it hit home runs. I don't think we thought they would hit for the average they have and drive in runs. Defense is there. The bullpen is there. This is the missing ingredient for them, but it's really an indictment of the organization, quite frankly, that they don't have anything of the caliber that the Red Sox had last week to deal and get a quality starting pitcher at this point. I don't think they have anything in their system that would warrant that at this point.
I think that's a fair criticism. Yeah, I mean, the Orioles have gotten by these last few years largely with savvy trades and low-profile pickups like Trumbo, low-profile free agent pickup. Or was he? He was a trade. I'm sorry. So moves like that, and they haven't done a great job developing players.
Ken, for you with the rest of the American League and what's happened in the Central, certainly Kansas City, the injuries, but these teams like Baltimore, like Cleveland, like Texas, I mean, even Houston to some degree, have been trying to climb the pole forever and actually have a parade and win. I don't necessarily feel the urgency in the market because, again, I don't think there's that much help out there. No one wants to give up on their A and AA best prospects because that's where the money is. I think the world of baseball's changed really over the last decade for this trading deadline, and I don't know that there's a real portfolio of teams that have made these kind of moves and given away young players. Usually 5 years later, you look back and say, well, they went for it, but I mean, I know here in Baltimore, we went for it with Andrew Miller, but it sucks seeing Rodriguez pitch for the Red Sox because he'd look pretty good in orange right now.
He would. Miller was great for the Orioles for those few months. So I think just trying to get my arms around your questions, man. I mean, certainly teams have, in my opinion, given up pretty big young pieces to go for it, including the Orioles with Miller, including the Blue Jays last year with David Price and Tulowitzki. So there you go.
Well, there you go. And I guess you mentioned the Blue Jays. They haven't done much at all, right? I mean, even in the offseason, the Hap thing hasn't been the implosion that many people thought, certainly for the money, letting Price get out of there. I still see the Blue Jays as they have to sort of kind of win now, right? With Encarnacion and Bautista, maybe Encarnacion stick around. Bautista will probably be gone at the end of the year. This would be their chance to load up as well. I would see them last year as being a big buyer out in the market at this point in the year and trading off. I don't know that they have anything left in their farm system, and I don't know that Shapiro would have made those deals if he were in Toronto last year.
I think you're correct on both counts. Yes, they just don't have many chips left to deal. And I think if Shapiro had been around last year, they probably wouldn't have made the trades they did.
Well, they wouldn't have had the run they had last year either that sort of reinvigorated the franchise. National League for you, is it the Cubs world and everybody's living in it at this point? I mean, we've been chasing them for 4 months now. I still think once it gets down to short series, they're the best team, I would think. But they're not running away with it the way maybe they were a month and a half ago. And certainly San Francisco, even Washington, despite the injury with Strasburg, they're all playing 600 ball right now. They're all really good teams. I tend to think the Cubs are the best of the lot.
I picked the Cubs to make the World Series preseason. I always stick to my preseason predictions. Obviously, there's kind of a fool's errand in the first place to assess who's going to win a short series. But when you look at what the Giants have done with Samardzija and Cueto pitching as well as they have, and to have those two combined with Bumgarner in a short series, that's pretty good. And the Nationals as well, with their starting rotation and Mr. October Daniel Murphy and Mr. April through September as well. I think that right now, and again, there's plenty of time to go, but that National League playoff, October looks pretty good. Yeah,
Wei and Chen would have looked pretty good in orange, and instead he goes off for all the money in Miami. And I don't know if the Orioles have any regrets about that, but certainly the Marlins have been as good a story as we've had in baseball over the last 6 to 8 weeks. They're in this thing very much, and they're kind of an interesting team for the trading deadline in a year where they can make a run at it.
Well, they really kicked things off with the Fernando Rodney trade. They traded interesting piece to San Diego for Rodney to boost their bullpen, and they're definitely going to be aggressive. Again, we keep saying the market isn't much this year, the trade market, but I would think they'd be in the mix.
Ken Davidoff joining us here. You can follow his journey out at New York Post as well as at Ken Davidoff on Twitter. Always great having you on, Ken, man. I appreciate the visit, pal.
Okay, Nestor.
There he goes, Ken Davidoff. You can find anything you miss in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day at WNST.net, including all of our rock and roll stuff last week. Luke, of course, will be following all things Orioles this week in New York, and Ravens training camp now less than 10 days away. We're monitoring all that. Any breaking news that would happen will happen first on the WNST text service. That's all powered up by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Our morning newspaper hits your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, I take it all. Nasty at WNST.net, as well as on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Snapchat. I think that covers all of them. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.